For decades, we have gazed into the cosmic abyss, hoping, guessing, imagining, and searching for something other than planets or stars, something impossible. We sent our machines, Voyager, Hubble, and now the James Webb Telescope, to pierce the darkness of space and unveil its deepest secrets. But what Webb has just discovered may not be a mystery, but a message. And worse, it might be alive. At first, the three-eye atlas seemed just another interstellar traveler. A phantom stone cast into the void, but it pulsed with a haunting precision, like a heartbeat, like a signature. And what followed was not only a mystery, it was a warning. Stay with me until the end, for if this discovery proves true, we are not alone and never have been. The James Webb Telescope was created to look further than the human eye ever could, through galaxies, into star nurseries, and beyond the very edge of time. But during routine observation of deep space, he recorded something moving unnaturally, a point of light where there should have been nothing. It was the three-eye atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object to pass through our solar system. But unlike Oumuamua or Borisova, this one was not silent. It screamed. At first, astronomers thought it was just a highly reflective object, like a comet covered in ice. But Webb's infrared sensors revealed something much stranger. The object did not reflect the warmth of the sun. It produced it. The internal heat signal was concentrated and pulsed faintly. It was not a signature of stone. It was a signature of something active. When NASA and ESA teams began analyzing the data, the same pattern kept emerging. A rhythmic thermal pulse emanating from the depths of Tri-Eye Atlas. Natural objects don't behave like this. Comets emit heat when sublimating, releasing gas and dust in unpredictable bursts. But this impulse was stable, purposeful, like a machine. When Webb's team compared the readings with known astrophysical phenomena, pulsars, neutron stars, quasars, nothing matched. Then the photometric data arrived. The light spectrum was not dispersed. It was focused. Narrow bands of energy radiated at specific wavelengths, like those used in communications, satellites, spacecraft, and lasers. And then the whispers began. This was not a signal we were receiving. Perhaps it was a signal we had just interrupted. The scientists began filtering the signal through Fourier transforms, searching for patterns, and beneath what appeared to be cosmic static noise lay a terrible revelation, an impulse, not random, not natural, but structured. The intervals were too precise, like a whisper cloaked in chaos. Some considered it a lighthouse, others thought it was telemetry, data sent somewhere else. And the most terrifying part, the pulse never changed. Since Webb detected the signal, it remained absolutely constant, unaffected by radiation, movement, or time. It was not the speech of a dying star or a wandering planet. It was something that sought to be heard, or perhaps something that wanted to listen. And then, without warning, everything changed. Three eyes flared with bright light. Their brightness increased by 40% in less than 2 minutes. No natural object emits light with such symmetry. Thermal readings indicated that the entire body of the object began to heat up, like a machine powering on. Then its trajectory changed. At first by fractions of a degree, but then with undeniable purpose, Three Eyes adjusted their path. They no longer followed the passive arc of gravity. They aimed not directly at Earth, but close to it, aligning with the inner planets, slightly shifting inward along our orbital path. The maneuver was so precise, so unnatural, that it could not be ignored. Something inside the three-eyed creature awakened and began to move. After altering its trajectory, the European Southern Observatory team deepened their analysis using spectral decomposition algorithms designed to detect organic molecules on exoplanets. They filtered the emissions of three-eye creatures again and found something unexpected. The energy signals had fluctuations ominously resembling biological rhythms, not DNA, not proteins, but something more fundamental. Resonance frequencies corresponding to cellular behavior. In other words, the light emanating from the three-eyed creature reflected not just energy. It vibrated as if it represented a living fabric. It was not some asteroid accidentally mimicking life. It was a signal encoded in light, behaving like a living system. And the consequences? Beyond understanding. If the object is partly biological, it means one of two things. Either it is alive, or it carries something alive. As excitement turned to fear, another anomaly appeared. The energy levels, if they can be called that, suddenly dropped. The thermal indicators leveled out, the emissions dimmed, and the spectral impulses lost their intensity. But the object did not slow down. It did not drift. It continued to move with frightening precision, like a machine that had entered invisibility mode. Some scientists described it as a stopped heartbeat, holding back breath. Was it hiding from us? Did it react to our attention? A troubling possibility began to spread. What if we are not the first to observe it? What if this is its defensive state? What if every time civilization approaches understanding its nature, it shuts down? In any case, the drop in energy did not calm anyone. In fact, it only heightened fear, because a quiet, cold, and invisible probe is much more dangerous than one that makes noise. Then something much closer to us happened. Monitors in the South Atlantic anomaly, the weakest magnetic region on Earth, began detecting unusual fluctuations. These were not solar flares or gamma bursts, but localized electromagnetic pulses synchronized with trajectory corrections of the Atlas object. When this object passed through the outer heliosphere, our planet reacted. Small changes in our magnetic field reflected impulses coming from the interstellar object. Physicists tried to find an explanation for this phenomenon. No comet or asteroid has influenced the Earth's magnetosphere from such a distance. No natural object should cause such electromagnetic reactions. The only logical conclusion? We are connected. Atlas's emissions affect our world and may communicate with it. At this time, a group of independent researchers proposed a theory that seemed too absurd for mainstream science, yet too convincing to ignore. They suggested that Atlas was not just a spacecraft, not merely a living probe, but a consciously constructed intelligence, not a machine controlled by someone, not a drone deployed by any force, but the very essence, a form of artificial or even biological intelligence that emerged not in a laboratory, but in the depths of interstellar evolution. This theory suggests that in other parts of the galaxy, consciousness may develop not on carbon and neurons but in plasma, electromagnetic fields, and engineered materials. And if this is true, then Atlas is not just a visitor. He is a messenger of a life we have never imagined. A life that moves through galaxies, hiding in comets and patiently waiting for civilization to advance enough to recognize its presence. And guess what? We just did. When global observatories recalibrated their instruments for the most precise observation of Atlas, a troubling new dimension emerged. The effects of gravitational lensing around the object did not match its expected mass. In fact, the distortion he created in the surrounding space indicated the presence of something much denser, or rather, something capable of manipulating gravitational fields. This shattered all the models that astrophysicists relied on to predict the motion and interaction between celestial bodies. The only time we saw anything remotely similar? Black holes. But Atlas is not a collapsed star. It is smaller than the moon. So how does he distort the space around him? Some theorists have suggested that he uses localized gravity control, not as a means of movement, but as a navigation system, like a submarine, adjusting its buoyancy to silently glide through an alien ocean. This would mean that we are dealing not just with advanced technologies, but with physics that has been mastered and tamed, rather than studied. Then came what many now consider the most irrefutable proof. A small fragment torn from Atlas began to rotate in space. Initially thought to be ordinary comet debris, it puzzled the team when the Webb telescope captured and analyzed its structure. This fragment had neither irregular nor organic characteristics. It was geometrically perfect, smooth, even surfaces, straight angles, symmetry. Such a structure could only have been created intelligently. And what was even more frightening, it emitted neither heat nor radiation, was completely inert, and showed no temperature. It absorbed light but never returned it. It seemed to be watching, yet remained invisible to itself. Its composition consisted of unknown alloys with atomic signatures that had not been found on Earth or in known meteorite samples. It was not cosmic dust. It was part of something artificially created. Astronomers at the Mauna Kea Observatory in Hawaii began tracking the rotation of the three-eyed Atlas. Like many elongated celestial bodies, it spun, but not by chance. On the contrary, the rotation pattern revealed something strange, with time intervals coinciding with certain mathematical constants, the number pi, the golden ratio, and even sequences of prime numbers. It seemed that the very rotation was a transmission, a language of movement, a kind of cosmic Morse code waiting to be deciphered. Some now believe that this rotation is intentional, that it does not occur due to inertia, but performs an act, a ritual of recognition, as if it repeats the message over and over, a message intended for visual perception rather than hearing. And this raises the main question. Are we witnesses or supposed recipients? The latest deep scan using the Webb telescope's life detection algorithms revealed something that made even the most skeptical people believe. Organic signatures, unstable carbon chains, and non-fossilized proteins, but shimmering signals corresponding to replicating structures. They were not complete life forms, but they represented predecessors, a framework of biological components, synthetic or natural, embedded in the tail of Atlas. Two possibilities emerged. Firstly, it could be some form of biological camouflage, an artificially created imitation designed to deceive primitive sensors into thinking that Atlas is a natural object. Many species on Earth, such as octopuses, cuttlefish, and even viruses, use such tactics. But the second theory is much more alarming. This biological remnant could be an intentional planting, a delivery system for spreading extraterrestrial genetic code, as if Atlas is not just a probe, but a messenger of life. Modern panspermia, using advanced propulsion technologies not for studying life, but for spreading it. When the object approached the inner edge of our solar system, several magnetometers, both on Earth and aboard deep space probes, began to detect strange fluctuations. These were not chaotic disturbances you would expect from a solar storm, but precise rhythmic changes in local magnetic fields. These impulses appeared in threes, like a metronome with purpose, and did not fade with distance. In fact, their amplitude increased as the three-eyed Atlas approached, indicating that the object not only emitted magnetic energy but also interacted with it, almost as if scanning or synchronizing with the magnetic structure of the solar system. The pattern had no analogs in nature. Some compared it to a handshake protocol, as if a spacecraft was establishing a secure connection. But with what? The sun, the Earth, or something we have yet to discover, hidden between the planets. And here things become even more unsettling. Communications specialists attempted to respond by sending carefully coded radio signals back to the 3AI Atlas using deep space network antennas. The signals were based on prime numbers, binary mathematics, and even artificial tones reminiscent of musical intervals. But there was no response, no echo, no reflection, nothing, except for one moment, an hour after the last impulse. The 3I Atlas silently changed their rotation speed. Not enough for most instruments to detect it, but enough for the team that sent the message to notice. Some perceived it as confirmation, others as neglect. But in any case, it was not random. He behaved not like a natural object receiving a message, but like a conscious subject aware of being contacted and choosing not to respond. In intelligence analysis, this is called deliberate non-communication, a psychological tactic where silence speaks louder than an answer, and in the vastness of space, silence instills horror. Returning to historical astronomical records, researchers discovered something unexpected: subtle disturbances in infrared sky surveys dating back decades. In 1987, 1998, and 2013, there were small anomalies in the same vector that the three Atlas AIs are currently following. This suggests it may have passed close to our system before. But the most intriguing point? Each appearance coincides with a sharp increase in unexplained radio bursts and gravitational wave anomalies recorded at the time. This raises a troubling question. Was the 3I Atlas here before? And more importantly, does it describe a cycle? If so, this is not just an object passing by. It is a recurring presence, possibly observing the cycles of planetary development, human progress, or perhaps something much deeper, encoded in the timeline of Earth. Recent calculations of its path revealed something that shocked the scientific community. The 3I Atlas are not moving directly towards Earth or the Sun. Instead, its trajectory bends to bring it closer to Jupiter's moon, Europa. It is even more curious that the corrected arc intersects with the moons of Saturn and Celadus if the object passes again. Both of these moons are icy worlds, both conceal subsurface oceans, and both are considered prime candidates for extraterrestrial life in our solar system. Thus arose a new theory. What if the Earth is not the target at all? What if this object, whatever it is, visits oceanic worlds to observe them, to sow or awaken life hidden under the ice? We thought we were special. We thought we were the center. But what if the true interest of the three moons of Atlas lies in what is hidden beneath their surfaces, which we have not even touched? As deep space transmissions gradually faded into static noise and the object continued its silent journey, one theory began to evoke real terror. What if the three-eyed atlas does not emit signals for communication because he doesn't need to? What if he is not trying to speak, but rather to listen? Imagine a probe so advanced and ancient that its sole function is observation without interference. No lasers, no landers, no messages, just passive absorption of everything around. Atmospheric resonances, electromagnetic fields, emissions of human technologies, even biological rhythms from Earth. Some researchers began to hypothesize that his silence is neither a malfunction nor a defense mechanism, but a part of his original design. The perfect spy, invisible and elusive, until now. This changed the whole picture, because if the three Atlas probes are a scout and have already been to this system before, then this is not their first report. Perhaps they have already sent their data, and the main question is to whom? Perhaps the most frightening discovery was made last. The research team from Caltech analyzed organic spectral data using a comparative model not against alien life, but using Earth's genomic markers. They found no matches, but also did not discover anything completely foreign. Structural parallels were identified, repeating nucleotide-like structures, echoes of patterns observed in viruses, retrotransposons, and even in ancient non-coding DNA sequences. The possibility that biological remnants following the three Atlas may contain information encoded in a universal genetic language, a structure so fundamental it can adapt to various planetary conditions, whether through evolution or design. In other words, this object may contain instructions for creating life, not just seeds of alien biology, but perhaps the very templates from which life on Earth arose. The implications of this discovery extend beyond science, touching on questions of origin, purpose, and authorship. And if so, the last mystery is not only what the three-eyed atlas is, it is important to understand who sent it. Now we know. The three-eyed atlas is not just a guest, not just an object passing through our sky. This is a question, a challenge, a reflection of our own pride and deepest fears. We looked into the darkness, hoping to see the stars, and instead found an observer, a listener, perhaps even a messenger. But from where? From what time? From whom? The James Webb telescope provided us with data, but did not grant us peace because what it discovered, organic traces, magnetic impulses, constructed symmetry, and coded patterns, does not indicate nature. It indicates intention. And when the universe reveals its intention, it means we are no longer alone in this story. And that is the greatest fear, isn't it? That someone has been watching us all this time, that our radio signals did not dissolve into the void. They reached something much older, much more patient, and now it has returned. Whether it is a probe, a carrier of probes, or the creator of probes, its silence is not ignorance, but a deliberate choice. And if they have decided not to speak for now, one should wonder what they are waiting for. Share your thoughts in the comments, for we may be experiencing the first stage of the greatest discovery in human history. And if you want to keep track of every step of what awaits us ahead, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Look at the sky, because this story is not over yet.